Good morning, Raptor Freaks. Lexi Outs here and Sunday, and we're having 2 days off, so I'm doing a Sunday special report this morning. I'm going to react to the Raptors 905 loss to Austin Spurs yesterday also. Classic card, Instagram stories, all that kind of stuff. Today on the Raptor Freak channel. That's right. Today's subject was requested by superfan Monique Lawrence to talk about today for a Sunday special report, and I did some research yesterday. I actually did. Opened up very important research papers on this subject. You'd be surprised just how many demographers and epidemiologists and social scientists are studying the subject of injuries in the NBA. You'd be shocked how many actual real legit studies out there that people are doing at universities about injury prevalence in the NBA specifically, not just talking about any sport, about the NBA. And there's all kinds of very interesting findings. I educated myself on this subject in a very interesting way yesterday and found out some things. And there are some simple solutions. Honestly, there really are, that if the NBA did them, they could actually probably decrease the issues with the injury prevalence. Now, one of the first questions we should ask is, are there actually more injuries in the NBA now than there ever were ever before? In some ways, there is an increase in injuries. Yes, there is an increase in injuries. That is undoubtedly true. But in some ways, seems like there's more injuries because of the nature of the NBA world at this point. That, in the past, when we were younger, the 80s and the 90s, key players, when they got hurt, we'd note that. But a lot of times, if there were guys on the bench, like six men or even back down to the rotation, if they were hurt, it wasn't in the media that much. It's not like we had the 24/7 ESPN kind of like news cycle where there's always something, this, and they're pointing out every single injury right away, all the way down to the G Leaguers and the two ways. So that is one of the factors that is actually making it seem like there's more injuries. There is actually more injuries, though. I have to say that. But part of it is that we hear about every single player now. And when we were in the old NBA, players that weren't as important didn't get any publicity or media attention in the news about things that were going on with them. And we honestly didn't obsess about the injuries as much. Sure, if a franchise player was out for an NBA team in the 80s, they felt it that year in their record. And they had issues for sure. But it really wasn't something part of the news cycle. It wasn't around as much. Does that make sense what I'm saying? That they just didn't cover this as closely or as in-depthly or over and over again like they do at this point with injuries. So that is a factor in it. Now, one of the big things that people talk about in the NBA game, modern today versus the old game, is the physicality. Is the physicality more physical back then, or is it now? Well, there's an interesting thing that's happened in the last 10 years of the NBA. Actually, let's just say the last 25 years since 99. Sure, the old NBA was very physical, and there was a lot of dirty shots and things happening all the time, and people were getting hurt. But a lot of those people that played in that era would play hurt all the time, as exampled by our original team president, Isaiah Thomas, who would play with a broken hand or a broken ankle and stuff like that. So that in some ways was reckless. And in fact, if you think about the cautionary tale of our original team president of the Toronto Raptors, Isaiah Thomas, his career was ended short at the age of 32 because he played on those injuries. Well, NBA players are paid more than ever at this point. They get amazing, huge $100 million salaries that are crazy, and they're huge investments. And in some ways, the folly of playing Isaiah Thomas on broken limbs in the past really did kind of rob him of possibly another 7 or 8 years of his career. I'm just saying, does that make sense? Some people may be like, well, why did we baby Immanuel Quickley so much to come back? Why did we baby Bruce Brown? Well, because of this, that in some ways there's been a history of players that played hurt on hurt problems, and they really destroyed their long-term careers because of that. And in some ways, these players are now such huge commodities and investments for these teams that they just don't want to mess with that. That's part of the reason why there's more injuries, because there's a lot of times where players would sit I mean, would not sit. They'd go out and play. They'd just tape the ankle up and go do it. And well, now they're very, very precautious because of the financial investment in a very top marquee players on your team. Does that make sense? That makes a lot of sense to me. Now, why? Oh, all right, the physicality back then was worse, but there was a soft period in the NBA that we're kind of moving out of right now. The period from when basically LeBron came around right up until now, there was a real soft period where physicality was not wanted. There was very much easier for the offense. They cut the nuts off on the defense, and it became more of a not so touchy league. In some ways, the league got soft for a little while. Well, in recent years, NBA fans have complained about the product, about the NBA, and how it is gone soft, and it just doesn't have the same kind of compete or the level of what was used to be. So the NBA listened to the fans, and recently, like last summer, when they went to Paris for Olympics, Adam Silver had his eyes open and saw that the FIBA game is a more pure style of basketball than the NBA game, and that it has qualities to it that are more attractive to basketball fans. So what did Adam Silver do this season? He amended the NBA rules to allow for more physicality. And that has definitely been happening this year. In fact, that is a huge part of why the injuries have increased. In some ways, it's a trade-off. We want more defense in our game, but with more defense, there's going to be more injuries. That's just the way it is. And part of it is, yes, maybe the athletes today are way more talented, way more athletic, way more stronger, way more multi-talented, like a Scotty Barnes with this combination of size and strength, that the old NBA, those big guys would just hack and beat each other up like strong, but there's a certain velocity to today's NBA. That today's NBA is a very fast and quick with the strong NBA. There's another trend that's been happening in the era recently of the modern era, that the players are running more miles than ever on the court. There's been an increase. They keep track of this now. And you think about recent Raptors in our history, like Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, that DeMar DeRozan, that were like minutes leaders in the league in their years, and they ran the most miles on the court. That's part of it right there. You're putting more wear and tear on your body. It's estimated that Terry Rozier of the Miami Heat runs 4 miles every single game he plays. There's a lot of players like this in the league right now. Fred VanVleet's one of them. Steph Curry is one of them. These are guys who are putting a lot of miles on the odometer with their body because they have to run around more. Part of it is the crazy switching and changing from players, that all of a sudden now players are moving more with their feet than ever on the court. More steps, more speed, more velocity, more injuries. Because they do the sports science studies. And, the more you run around, the more you work your joints, the more you're running every which way and all that kind of stuff, the more likely you can hurt yourself. And that is part of it right there. The fact that the game is more sped up and there's more running around than ever as far as miles that the players are putting on their legs as they run. A very good example of this is the Jalen Suggs injury in the last game the Raptors had. This is somebody who really didn't get hurt in contact with anybody else when he torqued his back and messed up his back into spasms. That is an epitome of him trying to get his velocity going from a standing position and wrenching his back in his weird way, and it just like slipping on him. And that is basically from what I'm describing right now. That this guy runs around so much, the probability and the possibility of him doing an injury like that to his back is increased because the modern NBA has players sprinting and running and stopping all over the place like crazy. Some ways way more than ever than the history of the NBA. Sure, there were the old Paul Westhead Denver Nuggets that ran up and down the court and scored a lot of points. But in some ways, the NBA is changing things on the defensive end where there's more running around, more stop and go, and even more physicality with collisions, with picks, with people just running into people. I watched the clip of Jaden Ivey's injury recently. And man, that's another good example of what's going on right now. This is a defensive play by Cole Anthony that's absolutely dirty what Cole Anthony did to Jaden Ivey, and took his leg out from underneath him and bent him and broke him. And in some ways, that was not necessary by Cole Anthony. But why did he do that? Because he's playing all out defense for Orlando Magic and trying to get the ball from the Detroit Pistons. That increase of intensity and a little bit more collision and contact makes the probabilities of injury to go up. So, what do we learn here? Well, the players are investments that need to be protected, and that's why they're more cautious and they will take an injury list more easily, even if they're not as hurt as maybe some of the older players that played on those injuries. Also, the game is sped up and more frenetic and run around than ever. And you put more miles on your legs, there's more fatigue and there's more ability to be possibly injured. The other thing that people have criticized, and this is the fix for the whole issue, is the schedule. The schedule has too many back-to-backs. The schedule has too much possibilities for fatigue, and fatigue causes injuries. Well, the quick fix to fix this is to extend the period of time that the season is. That's right. In some ways, the NHL starts a little bit earlier than the NBA, and they kind of finish a little bit after us. In some ways, the NBA needs to spread their games out better. These back-to-backs need to end. There needs to be a day between every single game for the whole entire year. And if that means playing into the summer more or whatever, losing 1 month of the summer just to extend things a little bit longer, that may be the right decision to fix the NBA. In some ways, I get it. They have a certain season that they have to play in, and it's been that way for a long time. But, fudge it a little bit maybe. I think cutting the games is not a smart decision. I think that 82-game schedule is just an NBA thing that needs to happen. But maybe making sure the players have more time to rest and rest on their fatigue so that they're less likely to get hurt, this could really change things. Now, obviously, there's little nitpicky rules that they can change with the referees as far as collisions around screens and stuff. And in fact, that was one of the rules they changed this year. One of the things that they are looking at this year with a point of emphasis is sticking your leg out on a screen and tripping somebody up. In fact, we've seen this call with Jakob a lot this year where he's pulling a screen, and if he has his leg out just a little bit, it looks like he's kind of tripping somebody up, they will call the offensive foul. And that is trying to decrease those kind of collisions and picks where people are getting very seriously hurt right now. So there's a lot to it. A lot of it has to do with fatigue and fatiguing the body. The body is weak. It's more easily broken. And that is a part of it. And then also the fact that they're messing around with the levels of defense in the league. A couple of years ago, the league was very soft and there was not as much contact as there is this year. And that adjustment to going back to more contact, well, there's going to be a little bit more of a prevalence of injuries occurring because the style of play has opened up a little bit more for contact on defense. I hope that all of what I've said today makes sense. And in some ways, you've learned something about injuries in the NBA today on this Sunday special report. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any further questions about the topic today, I'll be happy to answer them. I went and looked at some papers from my old field of study in demography, and there were some very interesting tables and charts delineating exactly the prevalence of each kind of injury. And of course, ankle injuries are the highest injury that occurs in the NBA. But yeah, it's very interesting to look at it. I mean, you could say the Scotty injury to his eye from Nikola Jokic, more contact on defense. Boom, hit in the eye. There's all kinds of different ways people are getting hurt these days. The other thing that needs to be noted is maybe the courts are too slick. The courts have too much condensation or water on them. It's very dangerous. And then also, I wonder about those in-season tournament courts with those flashy finish of paint on them. They're a little bit more slippery, as Jaylen Brown said in the first year of NBA Cup. That, maybe there's ways that they can make the equipment, like the floor, a little bit more safer for players to play on. I know that they've come out with that LED court, which was fantastic, and I hope they do it again. I hope they do it at All-Star break again, that court that lights up with the panels, and they have a certain grip on it that is non-slip that's very, very good. Maybe the NBA needs to look at that more with their courts, because there's a lot of slipping and sliding that's happening also that is contributing to injuries. So there you go. There's my Sunday special report on injuries. And if you want to talk more about it, let's talk about it. Just put it in a comment. That's right. Let's see what's up. Let's see who's here today. Trevor J. first in the chat. Of course, the commissioner of fun, Trevor J. We love you, Trevor. Happy Sunday to you, sir. When God sees you doing your part, developing what he has given you, then he will do his part and open doors that no man can shut. Wow. That's fantastic. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Okay. All right. I'm going to continue to try and do the things that he wants me to do. That's right. Trevor's saying Chicago Bulls smack New York Knicks around on Derrick Rose night. There you go. There you go. There's a little bit of honoring Derrick Rose, two of his former teams playing each other. And well, the Bulls are going to retire that number 1 for Derrick Rose. A lot of people are excited about that. I've seen Emmanuel quickly post about it. He played with Rose at New York, so he's a vet for him. Yeah, that's awesome. In some ways, I don't mind New York losing a bit right now. I don't mind it at all. Trevor's saying since the Bucks won the NBA Cup, they have been losing a lot of games. Beat the Trailblazers last night. Well, this bodes well for us. Help me do my scout for tomorrow, Trevor, a little early right now since we're playing the Bucks tomorrow here in Toronto on Indigenous Heritage Night. There will be having the special logo there. And who knows what else will be going on the evening tomorrow night. But, hey, I don't mind catching Milwaukee Bucks on a downswing after a post-NBA Cup hangover. This happened to the Lakers, too. This is very interesting. Does this mean that teams are really going all out during the NBA Cup games, and then they're having a fall-off afterwards? Because this is the pattern so far in the first 2 years of it, that the Lakers and the Bucks have dropped off after the NBA Cup and lost a lot more than they won. It's very interesting. Maybe they just feel, we accomplished something. We're good. We can breathe easy. No, you can't. It's the NBA and the season's still going. Maybe that's just part of the pattern. You play for a cup and you finish and you win it and you feel like the season's over because that's what people are used to. No, not with the NBA Cup. You got to keep going. You're right in the middle of the season. You got to keep going. That's good. The Trailblazers can beat them. Well, I hope the Raptors can beat them too. Yeah, we're having problems with understanding how to win and not taking teams lightly. And that's a problem. We may have taken the Magic a little lightly on Friday night without Paulo Banchero and Franz Wagner. And, well, the Raptors 905 took the Austin Spurs lightly last night and got blown out by them in the second game of the back-to-back. Even though they handled them so well on Friday night, as Coach Andrew Jones said after the game in his interview, these guys did not take these guys seriously and thought they'd be a pushover again, and this is what happens. Yeah. Adjustments happen for the Austin Spurs. Malachi Flynn gets a little revenge. And, yeah, you catch an L 905 when you probably should have won again because, you proved that you could the night before. That's the thing. In some ways, when you're a rebuilding franchise and you're going through a lot of the early lessons again, you got to remember that some of them are just dumb. Like one of the lessons is don't take any of your opponents lightly. It doesn't matter if it's the Orlando Magic without 3 of their leading scorers. It doesn't matter if it's the Austin Spurs that you kick their ass on Friday night, that you think you're going to just automatically kick their ass on Saturday. And the lesson is, Raptors and Raptors 905, you guys can't take your opponents lightly ever, especially the Raptors. There's not many nights where you're going to walk into the arena and say, oh, yeah, we can go easy. These guys are easy for us to beat. No, not for y'all. And 905, you do better if you respect your opponent and take care of them properly. And that's why Andrew Jones scratching his head after last night in a very, very miserable blowout rout done by the Spurs. You guys absolutely sucked in the second half. Couldn't score worth jack. And y'all got blown out by 40 points. That's ridiculous, man. Actually, 31 points. 31-point win, something like that. It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. Is that right, 30? Is that 31? That's 20. Yeah, 31-point loss to Austin Spurs. We'll do the stars of the game in a second. Let's see. Fiercey's here. Good morning, fam. Happy Sunday. Thank you for the words of wisdom, Trevor J. There you go. Yeah, Fiercey, do your gift, and God will give you to receive. There you go. Fiercey saying, after a week with a cold and under the care of my mommy, I am finally heading back to Ottawa. Enjoy and cherish the time with your close ones, fam. Yes. Yes, I'm totally with you on this, Fiercey. Totally with you on this. That's so nice that your mother was able to take care of you this week when you weren't feeling well. And I'm glad to hear that you're able to head back from Montreal to Ottawa finally because you're feeling better. All the best to you, MJ, for sure. Yeah. And Fiercey saying, Lex, in respect to the constant injuries, could it be due to poor conditioning, i.e. before and after games preparations? Also, are the training staff equipped to train around certain injuries? Yes, they definitely do. I mean, McKechnie is really, really sports science. He's top of the field, top notch. That's why he's a vice president of this team, and he gets the big bucks. Now, the thing that's a good example of this right now is Emmanuel. Emmanuel, during his period of time out recently, was able to completely do conditioning all the time, the whole time through, and didn't lose any of his stamina or his conditioning because he was able to run around and do all that stuff. He just couldn't use his left arm. So it's often they avoid the area that needs to heal, and they allow people to play all the time in practice, even if they're hurt. And that's true with Emmanuel. He kept his conditioning up, and that's part of the reason why he's able to play the way he has in the last week, just coming back. That things like, if it is a left arm, like it was Emmanuel, they just don't let him play on that arm. It's very much they'll favor, or they're not allowed to use certain parts of their body depending on if that part of their body is hurt. So there's a lot of guys that may practice and they're only allowed to use their right arm for a while because their left arm's healing, or vice versa. It's that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's definitely happening. Now, as far as the preparation before and after the game, these guys have top-notch routines and they're doing them. I think that it has more to do with this, Fiercey. It's not necessarily poor conditioning. One of the big debates in the basketball world is about how young people, when they start playing basketball and they start doing AAU and different things like that, is that they overplay themselves, that there's always constantly tournaments. There's always constantly stuff going on. Now, I could hypothesize that part of the reason why the Raptors have had so many injuries this season is because they took a lot of the summer and just worked their asses off before the summer and during the summer. Now, that never was the case in the NBA for many years. It's now that it's so competitive. The NBA teams want an edge, so they're actually practicing during the summer more and getting together and having more high-intensity basketball during the summer. NBA players used to play the whole NBA grind and take the summer off. Some of them would not even pick up a basketball for 3 months, and they actually really, really let their bodies heal and get a lot of rest. That may be the knock. Some people are saying we're conditioning young players right from the start to play year-round in tournaments constantly, that they're wearing their bodies down from just playing so much and not taking any rest periods during the year. And that could be contributing to things, actually, is the taking a time off of like 2 or 3 months in the year off from basketball. Everybody's playing basketball every year, all year round, 12 months a year. And that could be a contributing factor to things right there, because the body does need rest. And we're not resting our bodies in basketball anymore, apparently. That's just how it is. Summer league goes to, preseason to the regular season. If you're in the playoffs, you play late into the summer. Yeah, where do you get that rest to recuperate your body like the old NBA players used to? Yeah, because they hardly ever played in the off season back in the day. They would take that full time off and they'd show up in training camp sometimes out of shape because they did do that, but they at least rejuvenated their body. Does that make sense what I'm saying there? Mike's saying the pace and the new styles at every position and player movement is ramped up. This is a big contributor. What Logical Raptors Fanatic is saying here. The pace is a huge part of it. And part of it is if you have two bodies picking up speed quickly in a short period of time, very fast, and they collide with each other, there's a big impact. Big impact. And a lot of that little bursting stuff around the horn, getting around screens and people fighting through screens and then big people standing there to be a wall. Yeah, that is where folly and injury can happen in those kind of situations. Yeah, the size, big players like Scotty that are super fast, but they're very big people and they're colliding with people. Yeah, that's it right there. Mike's got a big part of the ingredients for why right there. Right there. Fiercely saying silly to ask, but do players take the time to stretch after games if they hurry to catch flights right after games? I doubt it. No, I'm going to say this, Fiercey. I think that most players, they're all individual and they're all going to have their own specific things and needs that they want to do before and after the game. But you'd be shocked probably at the lengthy checklist of different things that each and every player does to be prepared before the game. And then their cool down after the game preparations also. This is part of what Garrett Temple and Kelly Olynyk and Chris Boucher are teaching these young people, is that this is how I do it as a pro. Garrett Temple, 17, 18 years in the NBA. How the hell did I stick around so long? Well, I preserved my body
and I'll show you the step-by-step D after the game breakdown, not breakdown, the post game cool down methods that I use to preserve my body and limit soreness, limit aches and pains. Because that's the thing. These guys are running around taking bumps, bumping into each other. They get bruises, they get sore, they get fatigue, and they have to have time to recoup. And you have a back-to-back situation where you just kind of get going and do it anyway. That's part of it. So it's like if they could get rid of the back-to-backs, it would have a huge, huge help. It really, really would, because then guys could get proper days off in between games to fully rest and recoup their body. The back-to-back is an absolute horrible devil that in some ways is part of how the NBA games helping teams win, but also it's a very huge contributor to injuries. And that's what I'm saying right there. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't think that's silly to ask. They definitely do this kind of stuff, but they all may have very different procedures. A lot of them probably get in the ice bath. A lot of them probably do get a massage therapist to rub them down or something like that. They have those kind of things at their fingertips to utilize to help them with what they're doing. And that's why the Raptors is a top-notch organization. They give their players every single tool or thing that could be helpful to them in keeping their bodies at top level. So, yeah, let's see. Mike saying guards having to drive with fast big forwards so that physical defense hurts the defender and attacker, and the guards having to drive into OG is probably painful. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of it has to do with collision at this point. Is that, in some ways, in one of the articles I was reading yesterday, Mike, they're talking about how coaches are teaching guys to initiate contact in their offense, and that is bullying into people to try and get a foul called for yourself. And some of that stuff is very very impactful, very much like, yeah, this guy's going in the lane. He's coming in with his shoulder or his head or maybe even a forearm, and he's trying to make room. And then this guy's coming at him to try and stop him. And, two forces collide. Something's going to happen. Sometimes guys don't see where guys are on picks and they run flat right into them and get flattened. There's a lot of this kind of stuff for sure. And because there's faster, bigger guys in the league, it makes it all the more dangerous. That's what I'm saying. Fiercely saying Suggs' injury was mind-boggling to me out of nowhere. Well, let's break this down a little bit more closely, Fiercey. Think about this. Jalen Suggs runs up and down the court over and over again. He's putting a strain on his body every time he twists and turns and runs. And the way he took off his feet in that particular play, he was turned and all jacked up. Like his body wasn't straight, and he was pushing off of his right foot in a weird way into his back in the area where he got injured, that he compacted his back muscles. And that's where the spasms happen. And they happen, and it just like popped, and then boom, he's on the floor. He's having a hard time moving, and he's in agony. And that is just the miles of running up and down the court and the torque and the velocity and the moving your body into motion wrenched his back up literally on the spot with no contact from anybody else. Just look at that. You could see somebody get hurt without even contacting someone, just from the wear and tear and the work of running up and down all over the place all the time. I'm telling you, that's part of it right there. Stillman's here. Good morning to Stillman. Good to see you in the chat, my guy, Raptor Freak Stillman. Good morning, Raptor Freak family. I might be wrong, but Darko seems to be saying Scotty's been struggling a little bit because he's learning to play through being hurt, not injured. This might be true. I mean, listen, we know Scott has already missed a lot of games this season, and the 65 game thing matters to him because in some ways it's tied up with his contract incentives. And if he misses any more games, he has very few games he can miss. So there may be games recently where if Scotty had not used up so many injury games, he might have sat just for precaution. But that's what they're weighing with each individual player. In some ways, Scotty's goals are maybe totally different than Emmanuel's as far as things. Because Emmanuel obviously not worried about postseason awards because he's already missed out on that because he's missed so many games, right? But Scotty is. And in some ways, he may dress and play when other players may not with the injuries that he has because of those incentives. So I think that is something's going on. Darko said that his hip has been bugging him. And I mean, the ankle one is not the thing that I think is bugging him right now. I think it is a hip injury that's going on with him. And it's nice to see he shed the glasses. and he doesn't need those anymore from the eye injury earlier this year also. But yeah, this is totally true. And that's the thing. It's interesting because one of the things Alvin said on the broadcast a couple weeks ago is when you're hurt, sometimes you can't do everything on the court. You just stick to the basics and the fundamentals and you take care of those certain things. And I have seen Scott kind of dedicate himself to very basic defensive fundamentals and some of the things he's doing right now and expanding from that. But yeah, Scotty's hurt and he's playing hurt, but that's because he doesn't want to miss any more games. And he doesn't want to get any more hurt either. Mike's saying pick and roll handoffs at sprinting speed has the defender going at the same pace and then hit a 7-foot, 300-pound guy. Yeah. I mean, that's not just the only place where it happens, but it is very much kind of the poster child of NBA injuries right now is getting hurt on screens where you run into somebody and you fall on the ground and you crumple and you're like, you get some sort of injury like that. I mean, Scotty's hip injury is something kind of like that. He's fighting through screens and he hit his hip on a opposing player, and that's been nagging him since. I mean, that's the action that got him with a hip injury, at least. Let's see. Mike's saying if you're injured, if you injured something and continue to play, puts you at risk to hurt something else. So it's playing through with the issues. Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, you can get one thing leads to another, the fix. And you don't want that. You do not want that. That's why they baby them. In some ways, it's annoying. You want your full team out there, but also you understand in some ways, like part of it is where we are in our franchise rebuild. It's very early. It's not like we're trying to win. So we can afford to sit guys to be precautious because there's not an impetus to try and win as much right now. Teams that are higher in the standings, that have playoff aspirations, they may be more likely to press playing hurt players just because they're trying to win more now. But a Raptors team that's not in the running to win a lot right now, well, definitely they should baby their players on the injury list and do what they've been doing this year. That makes sense. Let's see. Seymour's saying yoga works. This is very true. It's very, very true. You can look at the crazy body of Victor Wembanyama and wonder why is this guy so strong and flexible and very healthy, because he does a lot of yoga. He strengthens his body through the act of yoga, and it's been a huge thing for him in particular. But yeah, there's a lot of players on our team doing yoga. I know Scotty is a big yoga person, and so is Chris Boucher. So, this is something that is definitely being utilized by our team. And I bet you a lot of the players do yoga, a lot of them. Mike is saying the front office is being careful with connection injuries that can balloon into long-term damage injuries. Of course. And that makes more sense. Back in the day, the players did get paid a lot. $1 million player was a big deal back in the 80s. If you made $1 million, that's a big deal. That's, small potatoes to a guy who's making like $40 million at this point. The money tied up in these players is astronomical at this point. And of course, teams are going to want to protect their investments. And that is a huge factor in why there's more people on the injury list. Some injuries would not maybe have sat out in the past, but they will now because of that investment. That's right. Seymour saying Memphis and Denver has emerged as the best suitors for Jimmy Buckets. Very interesting. Memphis and Denver. The Denver fit's interesting. Would Russell stay there? Would Russell go to Miami as part of a thing? I know Miami's always wanted Russell Westbrook. Because that's interesting. Because Russell's actually playing really well with Denver right now. Would they be able to keep him in there? What would Denver have to give up? Like, would they be dumb enough to give up Jamal Murray for Jimmy Butler? Which is sacrificing, a young player for an old player. And I don't know. That doesn't seem like the right thing to do. As far as the other team, Memphis, they've got a lot of different assets that would be interesting going towards Miami, and Jimmy Butler on that team with Marcus Smart and Ja Morant, and that could be interesting. I kind of like the idea of Jimmy on Memphis the most between those two, as far as things. Very, very interesting comment, Seymour, and just a little thought exercise thinking about all that. Stillman saying Kawhi played his first game last night. He looked good. And here's hoping he can stay healthy. That's great news, because I didn't think Kawhi was going to play at all this year. In some ways, the news was saying that, but it's great to hear that he's come back and made his season debut recently, and he looked good and he looked strong. I never liked Kawhi Leonard being out. Never liked it. It's just something that's happened since he left Toronto a lot. and it is what it is. In some ways, I've always wanted Kawhi to succeed again and do very, very well. But it is what it is. What's happened since he left Toronto. Seymour's saying, don't be surprised if the Bucks try to get big three Dame, Jimmy, Giannis, but Miami doesn't want Jimmy in the East. Yeah, I mean, I can see that, and I'm with the Heat on that as a Raptors fan. If we could get Jimmy Butler to go out west again, that'd be great. But yeah, I mean, that is kind of a bitter rival. Miami and Milwaukee. Of course, the Miami Heat swept out the Bucks a couple years ago and messed up their team, but got them to fire Budenholzer. I mean, that would be really helping them. And maybe Miami's pissed because they did win the Dame Lillard sweepstakes, which they wanted to win so bad. So I could see them not being cooperative with making a deal to trade Jimmy Butler to Milwaukee. I could see that. I could see that. Yeah, I could see that. Fiercely saying it's tricky because tournaments can also help you develop your game, but then again, it creates opportunities for injuries. Yeah, it's just that there's a different grind for young people in basketball. It's a different grind, and it's very like a lot all the time, and keep going and keep going. That is what it is right there. The body needs rest. You can't just overwork it and just expect it not to break down. You've got to give your body rest, and you have to feed it with good nutrition and good, smart activities to keep it healthy in certain ways too. Yeah. Mike's saying the NBA Cup attention is a double-edged sword. Every team gets playoff tape to study and plan against. Teams experiment during the season a lot, so it's like poker game until the playoffs when you show hands. I can see this being true, what Mike's saying. If you want to go out all out and win the NBA Cup, you might have to show some of your best stuff as a franchise. In some ways, you don't want to do that until the playoffs. Like, what matters? In some ways, Milwaukee may have showed more of what they might do in the playoffs just to get the NBA Cup. I can totally see what Mike's saying here. Totally can see what he's saying here. Yeah. Fiercely saying at Seymour, Pat Riley don't want that smoke. Yeah, I don't know if Pat Riley's worried about Jimmy Butler coming back at him. I mean, Jimmy Butler has his history of, getting that smoke with Minnesota. He had some interesting things to say about Philadelphia choosing Tobias over him. Yeah, I mean, Jimmy's going to be Jimmy no matter what, and he just kind of plays the way he plays against the whole NBA. And I don't think there'll be anything extra towards Miami, but there might be. There might be a little bit extra coming back at Miami after this. I don't understand how it went so south. To me, I look at Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra, Jimmy Butler, and I say these guys are birds of a feather. They're cut from the same cloth. Why are they so at odds right now? Why are they so mad at each other? What pissed Jimmy off so bad to get to this point where he is publicly at odds with Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra in the Miami Heat? What was it? Somebody said something out of pocket. I know that there's been a little bit of John in the past. Wasn't there that crazy situation in timeout with Udonis Haslem stepping up to say, I'll fight for you, coach, against Jimmy Butler in a timeout? Like Jimmy Butler wanted to fight Eric Spoelstra. And then Udonis said, I'll step in and I'll fight as your avatar, Eric Spoelstra. Didn't that shit happen in the last couple of years? Maybe this is part of the signals that there's may have been a working relationship between Jimmy Butler and Eric Spoelstra that was not totally healthy. Does that make sense? I remember that happened right before they gave him a rocking chair and put him out to pasture. Udonis Haslem, didn't he step up and say, I'll fight Jimmy Butler for you, coach, in the middle of a Heat timeout? I think that happened. I dreamed it. I think I remember that happening. I think that did happen. And yeah. Fiercely saying the positive sides of having vets showing the younger ones how to preserve themselves. Exactly. That may be more important than ever. That may be more important than ever. That's an aspect. It's not just lifestyle as far as manage your money right. Don't get hanger-ons. Don't get loose women that are going to mess you up with all kinds of stuff. Zion Williamson. Don't do this, don't do that. They're teaching that, but they're also teaching you how to eat, how to sleep, how to travel, how to take care of your body. And that stuff is important, especially because you're always like on the road and you're in airplanes and airports and you're in cramped places. How do you get that rest? How do you get that feeling, especially when you're in a hectic traveling NBA lifestyle? That's what I'm wondering about. Yeah. Bryce Lawson's here. Good morning, Lex and Rat Freaks. Good morning to you, Bryce. Welcome on this Sunday special report talking about injury prevalence in the NBA right now. That's right. We're not just a fluff channel. We're going in depth, like 60 minutes, and we're looking at this issue, and we're really dissecting it. I got Logical Raptors Fanatic here with me, And we're really breaking it down right now. That's what we do here. That's right. Stargate's going to say, but to counter logical Raptors fanatic, quick guards used to have to drive into Bill Laimbeer, Rick Mahorn, Maurice Lucas, Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal, Dwight Howard, Michael Cage back in the day as well. Yeah. And in some ways, their receipts were very violent. In some ways, these guys would actually hit people out of the air and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know. One of the things I've noticed, and this is something that bugs me about the younger generation coming up, is that there's no code of protecting each other. Like this Cole Anthony injury to Jaden Ivey is absolutely atrocious because he went at him like a wrecking ball and undercut him and rolled into him he rolled right into his body, and he could have protected him better, but he went at him, and that looked really intentional. Seriously, guys. And in some ways, there's a code among athletes, whether you play in the NFL, you play in the NBA, you wrestle like for WWE. You don't want to hurt each other because that's a livelihood. But I see so many cheap ass Bush League plays that Rico Hines would throw somebody out of his gym for, pushing somebody while they're in the air elevated to attack the rim these days. I see a lot of undercutting. I see a lot of bullshit that should not be happening that is allowing people to have a higher chance of being injured. And that, in some ways, that's teaching the kids right on how to play honorably and not play dirty ass ways where you could actually really seriously hurt someone and you just need to avoid it. And that's something that, Cole Anthony, that was a dirty ass play. Watching that, you absolutely injured Jaden Ivey, and you may have hurt his career very seriously. Solely you, because of your decision to be so aggressive to get the ball. Is that his fault for being a tough defender and wanting to get the ball and be aggressive? Or is it coach's fault for coaching him and saying you need to do this? Whose fault is it? I think it's Cole Anthony's fault that Jaden Ivey got so seriously injured the other day, because that was totally unnecessary. That did not have to happen that way. And in some ways, young players need to be thinking about looking out for each other, because you would want them to look out for you from the other side, right? Right? Because there's a lot of dirty ass shit. I'll see Grady going up and elevating to go in the air, and they're turning him sideways where he's coming down horizontal. And that is dirty as fuck. That is so dirty. I see Chris Boucher hit the floor hard. Thank God he's a long, very, very skinny man that can handle a fall to the ground and displace the impact across his long body. But it still hurts when you hit the point of impact. And I'm telling you, there's dirty ass shit. When guys are going to the basket, people are hitting them in such dirty ways at this point that it's even dirtier than back in the day. Look, there's a certain way to do it where you're not really trying to hurt them bad, but you're trying to mess the shot up. But some of the undercuts and the hitting guys in the air is absolutely deplorable to me. That's how I feel about it right there. Absolutely deplorable. Seymour saying, love you, Eye Candy. Happy you're feeling better. There you go. Seymour sending support from the great province of Alberta to the great province of Quebec to the Eye Candy, and hoping that she is feeling better. That's right. Trevor J saying Towns got hurt last night. Karl Anthony Towns got hurt last night. Well, what's the subject today? Injuries. Injuries. That is the subject today. Mike saying, Stargate, the pace and sprint speed is higher, I believe, and there's more pick and roll than ever. Post back down is an ISO helps limit injuries. Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. In some ways, it's slow. It was slowed down back then. What Mike's saying is, like, back in the day, those guys would hit you, but it was at a slower pace for sure, because it'd be like a little bit of a back down. Like they'd be dribble back into you, maybe hit you with the back, and then you hit me on the arm, and a little bit of that. But the speed of running into the lane to try and lay it up, and there's a land of giants, and there's a couple different people in there. And what I just was talking about, a little guy like Shed's trying to go in there, and he's trying to lay it up, and there's arms flailing at him and coming at him and hitting and stuff like that. That's what I'm talking about right there. No, I get what Mike's saying. That difference in the game and the style from back then and now is what he's saying right here. Yeah, but I get what Stargate's saying also. Those were bruisers. Those were dangerous men in the paint, and you had to think twice if you're going to be going down there as a smaller player. You really, really did. Stargate saying Anthony Mason, Orlando Woolridge, Buck Williams, Otis Thorpe. We can go down the list. Horace Grant, Dennis Rodman. Yeah, we can go down the list, Stargate, for sure. For sure. There you go. Fiercey's giving the heart and the love back. That's right. Mike's saying Nash broken down from the pace of the Suns' offense. Faster pace equals more injuries to non-physical players, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, that's totally what the studies that I looked at yesterday said, Mike, that the pace of the game, the velocity of the collisions is up because the speed of the game has gone up. And that what you were saying earlier about the athletes being just as big and strong, but just as fast, that's another part of it. It used to be back in the old days, the very big guys weren't fast; they were just strong, and the little guys were the fast guys. And there was a little bit of a balance there. But now in the modern NBA, there's a lot of big guys that are very fast, and that is part of it right there. That's part of it right there. Seymour saying Pelicans calling CJ grandpa got me feeling old. Not gonna lie. There's some animosity towards CJ McCollum in the league because he's a union rep, and in some ways they screwed over the middle class of the NBA. And some people are really mad at CJ that are players. Seriously. Because I mean, somebody like Gary Trent Jr., think about what happened to him this past summer. He fell through the cracks, and they very much can blame their union rep, CJ McCollum, for shaping the deal and the salary cap right now. So yeah, there's a little bit of that. Yeah, I don't. This is funny, man. In some ways, I don't like CJ McCollum myself. Mike saying more possessions equals more up and down the court per game. Lex's fatigue point is true. When muscles fatigue, the support in an action of jumping or running pulls something. That's exactly what happened to Suggs. And I mean, seriously, they're taking the stats now of how many miles are run on the court, and that stat is going up. That in some ways, you know, if you watch one player like a Fred VanVleet in an average game, that man is running a certain amount of miles every single game, all over the place, every which way. And if they play like a 40-minute game, 35 to 40-minute game, just think about how much they're running. And that is part of it right there. You overwork yourself, you work a lot, you get tired, and boom, it's easier to get hurt. It's easier to get hurt right there. Stargate saying it illogical. I agree with the fast pace theory, yes, but in terms of guards bumping into big players, that's been happening from time immemorial. Immemorial. That's such a weird word. Immemorial. Um, uh, yeah, I mean, he's right. Stargate's right because the contact has always been there. But what we're trying to say, Stargate, is that part of it is the change in the players' builds is they're just as fast as the little guys, but they're bigger now. Does that make sense? That's what we're trying to say. Like Scotty is the epitome of what I'm talking about. Scotty is this huge 6'9" guy, and he's so fast still, and you know he can get a lot of momentum going with that big, huge frame. And when he has to stop on a dime, it's way different than Fred VanVleet stopping on a dime. Does that make sense? I think that's part of it right there. Yeah, let's see. UC saying hello from the province of Quebec. Hello to you, Raptor Freak UC. Good morning to you on a Sunday morning. Good to see you. Trevor saying, I think Jimmy and Pat falling out came from when Boston best of 7 games when Jimmy said if he was playing, he would have beat the Celtics. And Pat told him to shut his mouth if you're not playing. That's like years ago. And it's just been like lingering like that. I don't know, man. This thing is silly. It's funny. In some ways, I don't mind it because it's a dysfunction on another team in the Eastern Conference. I'm sure Heat fans hate this shit. And well, that makes it enjoyable for me from that standpoint. Beers is saying, don't want to call out names, but I dislike those who play dirty and provide the being a competitor catchphrase. Whatever. No, I'm with you on this. I think Draymond Green is one of them that you would call on this. I mean, even a guy like Marcus Smart in the past who's on Memphis. Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. In some ways, you know, you can be a goon and a dirty player, and some people will call you a defensive genius, and some people will call you exactly for what you are. You're just a goon. Yeah. Yeah, there's a bit of that. There's a bit of that. And certain players, you know, the types of play I was talking about where you protect the player while they're in the air, that's different than just putting people in headlocks or punching them in the nuts. That is a blatant violence towards people and trying to hurt them in ways that have no place in the game. Honestly, no place in the game. That's why that guy got suspended. That's right. Fiercely saying hello to UC. All right, let me do the 5 stars or the stars of the game for the Raptors 905 loss to Austin Spurs. You know, they didn't start this game right at all. They started flat. And, well, the Spurs came out and they were hot from 3. They hit a lot of threes early. And then, you know, Malachi came into the game at a certain point, and he just kind of took over. He was the most capable player out of both teams on the court. He got 22 points in 19 minutes, 22, number 22, Malachi. He's still on a minutes restriction, which is interesting. He played both games, but he only played around 20 minutes both games. 6 of 13 from Malachi Flynn, 2 of 6 from 3, 4 of 5 from the free throw line, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 1 turnover, a +9, and the best player on the court yesterday. And sad. There was a point where Malachi ran up to Shamshay and just stripped the ball out of his hands because Shamshay didn't know what he was doing. He looked like a deer in headlights. And Malachi recognized as a veteran of the NBA that he could just run up and just wrench the ball out of his hands. And he did. He did. There was another play where Malachi stole the ball off the inbounds and laid it up in a humiliating way against the 905. It made us look totally stupid too. He was talking a lot of trash too, and rightfully so. And in some ways, you got your ass beat bad on Friday night. You couldn't say nothing. But yeah, he came back and gave receipts last night. And that's the thing that the Raptors 905 needed to realize. The Austin Spurs aren't going to just roll over and let you beat them twice in a row. You're going to have to be ready for a better effort from them and adjustments by their coach. And they didn't do any of that. They just they didn't respect the situation, and they got what they deserved for it, a 31-point loss, a rout. In the second half, the Raptors 905 only scored 40 points. Meanwhile, the Austin Spurs scored 59 points. So they outscored them in the last two frames by 19 points. That's messed up, man. You were already down by like 12. So yeah, you figured out. That's why they lost right there. All right, my 3 stars of the game for the 905 in a loss. I'm going to give the first star to Jamison Battle. He started 35 minutes, 5 of 7 from the field, 2 of 2 from 3, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, minus 17 with only 12 points. And that's my star of the game. None of the 905 scored over 15 points yesterday. And this has been a problem for the Raptors and the Raptors 905 in the last 2 days. In fact, they were talking about it in the chat. The Raptor Freaks were in the 905 chat last night. Why is it that the Raptors and the Raptors 905 can't score right now? What is the problem with the points per minute production? Why are these guys out there just running cardio and not putting the ball in the hoop? What's going on with y'all? Seriously, I'm wondering about this because there's a lot of goose eggs in the game last night from players that got on the court. A lot of like 2 points, 4 points, a lot of that kind of bullshit. You know, the leading scorer on your team, it only scores 14 points. Something's wrong with your team. I'm telling you. You know, there's something wrong there. The second star of the game for the game last night is Shamshay. Shamshay's had some very strong games in a row. He's been my second star of the game 2 games in a row, and he's just like getting more involved than ever. Ulrich was 5 of 7 from the field. He had some very nice putback dunks and very nice like working around. He's showing a lot more skills and gifts. And there's a lot of promising things he's going to be able to do in the future. I'm telling you right now. He did take 1 3. He missed it. He made his only free throw. He got 8 rebounds, 1 assist, 4 turnovers, a minus 15 with 12 points. That's not even that great. He didn't get a block, and he only got 8 rebounds and 12 points. That's how I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel for finding stars from yesterday. But 5 of 7, he was active. He was a defensive presence. There were different things he was doing okay, but once again, he's a young kid who doesn't know what he's doing totally. And there's times where they're passing the ball to him, he's just oblivious, and he just doesn't catch it. He just doesn't. He's not, his court awareness and being locked in the game and his understanding of basketball still has a long way to go. Let's just put it that way. But there's a lot of good signs that the gifts and the physical stuff about him are going to really develop into something amazing. I'm going to say that right now. Eugene Omoruyi is my 3rd star of the game. He came off the bench for 21 minutes, 4 of 7 from the field, 1 of 3 from 3, 2 of 6 from the free throw line. The free throws were ugly, Eugene. What the hell, man? 2 for 6. If you had made some of those free throws, you might have gotten 20 points and been the leading scorer for the team. 4 rebounds for him, 4 turnovers, a minus 26 with 12 points and 21 minutes. Yeah, that's garbage, man. These 3 stars are very ho-hum stars. And that's the best that I could pick from these. I'll go over the rest of the team real quick. Mobo, not a bad game. Honorable mention for him. He was getting roasted by some troll in the comments. Just bullshit. Way, way, way unnecessary. That idiot in the troll. Because honestly, Jonathan was showing really good defensive stuff. And in the second half, he was absolutely fantastic defensively and rebounding. He was getting in there and tapping the ball and getting us second chance shots like crazy. In fact, he had 5 offensive rebounds, 12 rebounds altogether. 4 of 8. If he had just made 2 more points, a free throw, in fact, that he missed, he would have gotten a double-double. 2 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 3 turnovers, a minus 14. In some ways, I maybe should have made him a star of the game instead of Eugene Omoruyi. Frank Kaminsky, a disaster. He's had a couple of bad games where he shot really bad. 19 minutes, 2 of 6 from the field, 2 of 5 from 3. So he only took 1 shot that wasn't a 3. 2 rebounds, 1 assist. Minus 10 with 6 points in 19 minutes. That's horrible. Only 6 points, my guy. And how did you only get 2 rebounds? You're like the tallest guy on the court. Like, seriously, come on, get your head out of your ass. Jared Rhoden had a very good game on Friday and a horrible game last night. Horrible, horrible game. He only got 2 points as a starter in 22 minutes, 1 of 8 shooting, missed all 3 of his threes, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks, 3 turnovers, a minus 22. Yeah, Jared Rhoden, that's just inconsistent, man. And in some ways, the level of play that you showed on Friday was needed last night, and you just didn't come with it. You weren't prepared, and you looked really bad last night. Really, really bad. AJ Lawson, not a horrible game, but he could have shot way better. 4 of 13 from the field, similar to what he shot on Friday night, actually. 0 of 4 from 3, made both his free throws, 2 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, 1 block, minus 5 with 12 points in 29 minutes. AJ Lawson is still that guy who's very quick. He's getting all over the place. He's hustling his ass off, but he needs to rein it in and still help his team to try and win. I like the new additions. Like, I think that Omoruyi, Kaminsky, and AJ Lawson have been absolutely good players to add to 905 to get better with different roles and different styles of things. Darko and his coaching staff were at the game last night, sitting at the end of the court at a table. Pat Delaney and Jama and Coco, and they were watching these guys. And I would like to think that these guys would try and put on their best foot forward, but no, these Raptors 905, they sucked in front of the coach. And, you know, the coach is not going to give you more time in 905 2 ways if you're going to be playing as garbage as you did yesterday. But AJ Lawson may have taken some notice because he was getting after it and working really, really hard. And who knows? We'll have to see if Darko decides to play Lawson in regular Raptor games in the near future because of what he saw last night. Because in some ways, AJ was working really hard, if not playing that well, though. Tyler Perry did not get more time after shooting 3 for 3 really quickly and getting 9 points in 2 minutes on Friday night. He only got 7 minutes this time. They put him in really, really late when it was too late. And he only took 1 3 and he missed it. He had 2 turnovers, a -8, 0 points. Quincy Guerriere, 2 minutes, 0 points, nothing. Cardio for 2 minutes. Tyreek Key, 6 minutes, 1 of 2 with 2 points. That's it. Charlie Brown off the bench, 15 points. 15 minutes, 1 of 3, 1 of 2 from the 3-point range, 1 of 2 from the free throw, 1 rebound, 1 block, 1 turnover, a -11 with only 4 points. 4 points in 15 minutes. Charlie Brown Jr. Geez, you blockhead. You blockhead. Let's see. Kennedy Chandler, 30 minutes, 14 points, a -17, 4 of 10 from the field, 0 of 2 from 3, 3 of 3 at the free throw line, 4 rebounds, 7 assists, 1 steal, 4 turnovers, 7 to 4 assist to turnover ratio. Yeah, I don't want to give Chandler any more stars. In some ways, he was a knucklehead last night. Once again, calling his number way too much, going and forcing really shitty layups that he missed when he shouldn't have been doing that. He should have been passing it out. There was one dumbass play in the third quarter when things kind of went awry and they busted the game open and took off on us, Austin Spurs, where Kennedy Chandler's coming across the court. He's the point guard. And all of a sudden, he wants to pass it to Shamshay, who's on the other side court. Didn't need to do that. Should have continued to bring the ball up himself. And Shamshay wasn't even looking. So he threw the ball off the back of Shamshay's shoulder out of bounds and wasn't ready for that. I was like, why are you doing that? That's where you got to question a point guard's mentality in decision-making. Why the hell? You're the point guard. You have nobody guarding you. Why did you throw the ball across the court to Shamshay when he wasn't looking? And why would you do that? He's not a good option for that. You get him to lose the ball, which is what happened. So Kenny Chandler, man, my gosh, figure your life out, man. You got to be a better point guard. You're not a point guard, bro. It was really nice to see a huge contingency of the Raptors players at the game supporting the 905. Davion Mitchell's a huge Raptors 905 fan. And if he's in town, the Raptors off, he's at the 905 game if it's going on. And he always seems to bring Bruno Fernando and Jamal Shed. And well, they had them there at courtside watching the 905 lose with Jacoby Walter. He was also there sitting there. So 4 of the Raptors from the main roster were taking in the game at the 905 game last night, that big loss. It's too bad they lost, man. I wish they'd done way better. And the fact that they got routed, well, you deserve that in a way. So now the Raptors 905 are 2-2 in the regular season. You want to be a winning team? You can't play with your food. You can't act like a team's easy because you blew them out the night before. Because they'll come back with adjustments and kick your ass right back at you. One of the big keys was the Spurs made way more field goal attempts They were able to manufacture almost 20 more shots than the Raptors 905. Also, they made more threes, 11 threes to 6 for the 905. Both teams shot horrible from three, by the way. Also, free throws. They were more aggressive. They got more, almost twice as many free throw attempts as us. But both teams shot around 60% at the free throw line. But they got 9 more points from free throws. The rebounds, they out-rebounded us by plus 11. The assists were really bad, not really sharing either team. Both teams did not get a lot of assists. Turnovers were a huge problem. The 905 had 26 turnovers in the game last night, double the 13 turnovers the Austin Spurs had. Really, really bad. 17 steals for the Austin Spurs also. Points in the paint, the Raptors 905 won that category at least, 50 to 46. But that's small solace in a horrible game like this. Yeah, 4 steals for Quentin Rose, and he was absolutely killing the Raptors with certain threes at times too. He had a logo 3 at one point that was really, really nasty also. 5 steals for Jameer Nelson Jr. also. Jameer Nelson Jr. kicking our butt with 21 points in 22 minutes. Him and Malachi off the bench. Really, really good players for the Austin Spurs last night. There you go. There's your Raptors 905 recap for a very poor rout by the Austin Spurs to us. Tomorrow we'll play the Milwaukee Bucks, the Raptors versus the Milwaukee Bucks. I'll have the preview tomorrow morning. That's right. Boom goes the dynamite. Let's go. All right, let's see what else y'all are saying in the chat since I broke down the game just now. Let's see what's up. Yeah. All right, let's see. Seymour saying Grayson Allen, defensive genius. Yeah, he's one of them. Definitely, he's one of them. I don't see him very often because he's in Phoenix now. But when he was on Milwaukee, I hated that guy. And he's totally a goon. Totally a goon. He hurts people all the time. Stillman saying, speaking of Draymond, he got into it with Zach Edey last night. That's awesome. That's a match I'd like to see because I know big young Zach has got him overmatched with strength and size. That'd be hilarious, man. I might have to go find that highlight. Blackhawk saying Darko was there at the 905 game. Malachi was like, I'm smiling. Yeah, Malachi was talking a lot of trash. And in some ways, this is the thing. I watch Malachi, and he's filled out. He's stronger. He's more of a vet. He looks a lot more determined. He really has grown as a player in his years in the NBA. But in some ways, he hasn't developed in certain ways that helps him stay in the NBA. And that's the thing and the reason why he's on the Austin Spurs right now. That this dude, I mean, you've been in the league for how long? Why have you not been more of a point guard? I get it. You're a very good scorer. You're a very good shooter. But your assist to turnover ratio for most of your career has been such crap. And in some ways, you're this type of guard that I get mad at. Javon Freeman, Liberty, Kenny Chandler, Malachi Flint, that calls his number way too often for not really converting and doing that well. Now, sure, Malachi dissected the 905 last night by cuts and going to the basket and really savvy, smart veteran plays where he saw opportunities and he took them and he executed. And that, that's a testament to him. But still, he's not a team player that helps his other teammates better. In a lot of ways, he doesn't do that. And that's why I've always had a knock on him. That's why I've always thought we're wasting our time with him as our backup point guard because he's not a backup point guard. He's a backup shooting guard that is masquerading as a point guard. And it annoys the hell out of me. Very, very annoying. Very, very annoying. Trevor J saying it's very hard to win back-to-back games in the NBA. Yeah, I would say that. But this is the G League. And in some ways, they should have won this game. Trust me, they should have. In some ways, that was a test for them at how serious they're taking things, and they didn't pass. They didn't pass last night. Mike's saying the Butler issues are the regular season effort and playing games. He hasn't played 65 games since the Bulls. That's Pat Riley's issue. He wanted Butler to play more games before extending him. Yeah, there may be contract disputes about what and the terms and the length of the contract is. That they're not matching up on. I mean, whatever. I don't care exactly what the issue is. This is extra drama. In some ways, this is manufactured ESPN bullshit just for their news cycle. And in some ways, it's not even that newsworthy to me. Okay, so there's problems down there. Good. Fine. Whatever happens is going to happen. So I don't need every little speculation or detail and every talking head on ESPN giving me their fucking opinion on this bullshit. In some ways, that's kind of how I feel about it right now. Blackhawks saying it gets crazy when we can't score and the Benny Hill music is playing. Oh, I hate that so much. I mean, this is true. I mean, with young teams in basketball, they're going to make a lot of fundamental mistakes. There's going to be a lot of silly turnovers. There's going to be a lot of different things that top teams in the NBA clean up and do not do that are going to look bumbling and stupid. And yeah, you could play that Benny Hill music over some of the highlights from the 905, and not just the 905, the Raptors too, because there's certain things that are happening with our young core that, you know, wouldn't have happened with our veteran championship core around 2019, or even the core with Fred and Pascal and OG that we just moved away from just now, because they're tightened up, fundamentally smart players that aren't making those little mistakes. And in some ways, we got to learn we can't make those little mistakes all over again with our young core. And this is part of the growing pains in the process. True, Trevor J. 905 was struggling for energy. Yeah, what are y'all doing with your cardio? You just running cardio. Put some hoops in the basket. And in the second quarter, they had a hard time scoring. And that's the thing I don't like. I thought in the Darko era, we'd have offenses that just are buzzing. They're just easily getting that ball through the hoop over and over again, all the time. No issues with stagnation and not being able to score. But right now, the Raptors are having trouble scoring at both levels with the G League and the NBA League. And that's a problem. That's a big problem. They need to get this shit straight. I'm telling you right now. All right, I'm going to do the Instagram stories real quick. We got the 4 files. And this is Lloyd's Pictures account on Instagram. And it's got Scotty out on a street with Nardo. And it looks like it might be from Spain this summer. This is an old picture from this past summer. Scotty wearing blue jeans and Nardo with the fanny pack. Yeah, because there's a picture of Spain and somebody in the pool. And then there's a cathedral from Spain, from when they were over in Spain, the Raptors and the posse, Scotty's friends. Norman Powell showing highlights. And there is Kawhi on the court. I see him there in this highlight, wearing the red jerseys of the Clippers. So Kawhi came back and he showed up. Interesting. Very, very interesting. But Norman's scoring on that. He's getting a jersey from the Anaheim Ducks, number 24, Powell, on Anaheim's Ducks hockey jersey. So some of the Ducks players were there, and they traded a jersey to give to Norman. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. What was happening around midnight at OVO Center? Well, Wubbs was there putting in work. I love to see that. Jacoby Walter goes to the 905 game last night, watches them get routed, and he decides at midnight, I'm going to go and work out at the 905 and put in some shots and get my workout in. So Jacoby, do you want to know where Jacoby was at midnight last night? Well, he was at the OVO Center practicing. That's where he was. AJ Lawson with a picture of him sitting on the bench at 905 game last night. And he's saying, been ready, stay ready. That's right. Been ready, stay ready. There you go. And there's a highlight of him going to the basket with the dunk. Jonathan Mobo has got an orange shoe on blast on his Instagram. Serious Players Only shoe brand. He is the one of the spokespeople for Serious Players Only, and he would like you to buy that shoe. Davion Mitchell showing highlights of him guarding the Magic from the other night. His dogged defense on Cole Anthony. Very, very good stuff. Not letting him get anything and missing that shot. I love seeing the defensive stand. There he is coming in the game. Good chrome. Okay. Good chrome. And there's got this too shall pass. He's got a motivational speaker talking about things. But if we look back, we can look at all the things that God has brought us through. And what we can say is we survived some of the most difficult times. Yeah, there you go. I like that. There he is at courtside at Paramount Fine Food Center. A nice view at the half court with stripes and the team out there getting ready. Paramount Fine Food Center is where Davion was checking in last night. There he is with his red hoodie on. Very, very cool. Nice to see him supporting the team. The Raps supporting. There's him and Shed and Bruno sitting in the crowd supporting the team. Wait, who's in the other picture up there? Oh, no, that's just fans up above him. There's Eugene Omoruyi working the dribble, getting ready for the game before they got beat bad. There's Jared Roden coming around a pick to shoot a 3. That's on the Raptors 905 official IG account. Yeah, it's just too bad. I mean, they had a chance in the third quarter to come back and still win this game, but they totally flubbed it. Totally flubbed it. And didn't take it seriously enough or honor it enough to take part of it. There's Emmanuel quickly celebrating. Derrick Rose finding out that he's going to be getting his jersey number 1 retired by the Chicago Bulls franchise. It's a big deal, honestly. The Bulls do not retire jerseys very easily. There's not as many Bulls jerseys retired as you think. And this is a big deal for them to retire number 1 for Derrick Rose. It is a very big deal. Jamal Shed watching some highlights of some basketball on his computer, on his Instagram. Eugene Omoruyi in action on his Instagram. Arish Shamshay showing that he got a cut yesterday by Matt Cabs. Matt Cabs is one of the main hair stylists for the Raptors team, and he's often given them their lines. And yeah, he lined it up for Ulrich before the game yesterday. So Ulrich had a fresh cut for the 9:05 game against the Austin Spurs. And Jacoby Walter is showing the highlight that Davion posted of him boxing up Cole Anthony and not letting him score with beautiful, beautiful defense. So good. Calling him a box. That's right. And then he's got highlights of Notre Dame versus North Carolina in basketball action, college basketball action there. And the final story is Superfan Monique. There she is with her sister. Very, very cool to see her with Nex, her sister. In her Instagram stories. There's Superfan Mo ending our Instagram for today. There you go. Boom goes the dynamite. Let's see. Stillman saying, so SGA against the Celtics today should be a fun game. Let's go Thunder. That's right. I'll be with Lloyd's team. Let's go Thunder, and let's beat the Celtics. I'm all about that. I'm all about that. Mike saying Eddie has like a Ben Wallace vibe. He ain't taking any BS. And rightfully so. I mean, look at the size of that kid. He may be young and inexperienced in the NBA, but he's definitely not a pushover. You know, he's had a lot of different people come at him with anger in different ways, and he hasn't backed down. And that's what I expect from him. He's going to be the big pivot for our Canadian national team. Well, we want him to be tough and able to mix it up. And I like this. I like this about Edie. He should not back down to Draymond Green. He should stand right up to him. That's right. Let's see. Stillman saying, that's right, Logical. He's been tested a few times already this season. He don't back down from anyone. That's right. That's our guy, Zach, from Toronto. That's right. You keep going, Zach Edey. That's right. Seymour saying Edey even batted up with Valanciunas a few games back. The man wants all the smoke. Yeah. I mean, if you were his size and you were him, wouldn't you be the same way coming in this league? A very confident young man because you are bigger than most everybody in the whole entire league. Yeah, I'd be the same way. Shaquille O'Neal is following the footsteps of Shaquille O'Neal and being the big bad daddy in the whole entire league that everybody needs to watch out. That's right. UC saying that 50 burger from Flynn last season is the most unexpected stat line ever. Laugh out loud. Well, it was with the Pistons, and some of those Pistons games near the end of the season were a joke. And in some ways, it was an exhibition or like a pro-am kind of feel. It wasn't like it was a totally serious NBA game where Malachi got 50. Let's just say that. Fiercely saying, Lex, just share the Edey versus Draymond scuffle on the Facebook chat. What's funny is how the Golden State commentators turn a blind eye to Draymond, once again, being a competitor. Yeah, that's such bullshit. That's such bullshit. I'll have to look at that when we're done. And Mike's saying, yeah, Pat Riley basically said as much, and Butler said, F you, and I'm not changing, so we're at this point now. It's so childish. It's so childish. I mean, in some ways, I respect Jimmy Butler, but also I can understand how he's just a completely unreasonable person. And I mean, him trolling with the hair and stuff, that's like harmless and fun and silly, but you can see where he is kind of a dick from that kind of stuff. So I don't know, Jimmy. I can't really stand up for you on this one because in some ways, you know, that action by an NBA player at this point is it's just classless to me. In some ways, you have contracts. If you're going to finish the contract, then leave then. But in some ways, I get it. People get so upset with the situation that they want things to happen right away that, you know, you kind of make an ass of yourself. And I mean, Lillard, Harden, you know, there's names that have done this in recent past I've lost respect for. And you can add your name to that list because of that in some ways, is what I'll say. Fiercey's got my 1037 W stream cutoff. Yeah, just over an hour and 15 minutes right now. And we'll wrap it up. I probably won't go the whole 2 hours. Trevor's saying, I watched the full episode of RJ and Grady at Scarborough Bluffs. Yeah, I watched that too. It's such a weird little thing they filmed out there. It wasn't that long. Keel Augustine out there and showing them the Bluffs area and trying to get them to do stuff like body surf in the water. I'm like, what? Don't let them get in Lake Ontario, Akil Augustine. What are you trying to do? And like even RJ revealed that he has never gone on a hike. In this clip, he's like, I've never been on a hike. Yeah, it's pretty entertaining, fun little goofy clip. Hometown heroes. And showing Grady and RJ out in the Scarborough Bluffs. It's just really weird, man. I get it. Akil wanted to take them to his neighborhood. It's like, okay, all right. Raptors content is weird sometimes. I'm telling you. Blackhawks saying, I watched the Rose jersey retirement. Classy. VC jersey retirement still tops it. Yeah, I didn't see it. I don't know what it looked like. I'm sure. Listen, that Raptors, they just do things right. And Vince is right. Like he's never seen something like that. You're right, Vince. You got one of the best jersey retirements ever in the history of the NBA. And it's special because it's the first one ever for the Raptors. And they do it right, and they do it the way they do. And everything you're saying about it's not bragging, Vince. You're exactly right. You had one of the greatest retirement jersey ceremonies ever because part of it's because of your emotion, my guy, because it really hit hard for you. And it hit hard for us too, the people that were mad at you, because it is true. Healing is powerful. And feeling the healing of seeing how much that meant to you, it meant a lot to me. So there's a lot more to this because of broken bonds being mended again. And man, that's an awesome thing right there. Yeah. Blackhawks saying I watched it too, Trevor J. Good video log. Yeah, I don't know what are we gonna get more of these? Are we gonna get like Kelly Olynyk and Bruno Fernando are going to go to Little Italy and hang around at the Cafe Diplomatico. It's like, I don't know. What are we going to do? Hometown heroes. We're going all over Toronto to different little areas with different Raptor combinations with maybe Savannah Hamilton or Lindsey Dunn or Kayla Gray, different people coming out there with them. I don't know. This is going to be a regular thing. Randy Urban takes them back home to Leaside or something. I don't know. What are they doing here? I don't know. I don't even know where Randy Urban's from. I don't know. He's probably not from Leaside. But yeah, let's see. Mike's saying Butler is going no dunks mode at the moment. See, I don't respect that. If I'm going to come down on Vince for doing it to us, I'm going to come down on Jimmy for this. Seriously. I don't care if it hurts the Miami Heat. Because in some ways, this kind of attitude is just fucking spoiled rotten. And it's annoying. Dude, you make millions of dollars to play in the NBA. Shut up. And just fulfill your contract. If you want to leave at that point, leave then. But man, don't do this kind of shit. Because in some ways, players like teams like ours, we feel this in some ways because we remember Vince. And in some ways, I lose total respect for players that don't try just because they're unhappy with where they are. Because that's fucked. What is that set for a president for across the league? If Jimmy Butler is saying, yeah, I am not going to dunk right now because I'm mad at Pat Riley. Yeah, people should not be acting like this in the NBA. Y'all make so much fucking money. Come on now. In some ways, you're blessed. I get it. It's a tough lifestyle in different ways as far as being away from your family, the grind physically, the travel, and all this kind of stuff. But still, man, you're making a lot of money. And in fact, that's part of the reason why the Players Association is mad and they're going to come at them with the suit. And also because this hits him in that pocketbook. He's suspended without pay. He's going to lose like $500,000 every single of those 7 games that he's suspended for. So in some ways, that's the way to punish him, is to take a huge amount of his paycheck from him and not pay him. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy right there, man. Yeah, Blackhawks saying KO has the bar burrito commercial. Kelly Olynyk in a bar burrito commercial right now. Seymour saying he was told to mentor Jaime Vasquez Jr. It sucks to train your replacement. Yeah, but that's the NBA. That should be everything. That's the same in wrestling. You got to train your replacement or that doesn't continue. Sure, back in the day, there were dick veterans that would not train any of the rookies and would like, I'm not selling you nothing. You're on your own. And this was a problem in the league. In some ways, that's why when you found a vet that was willing to share things with you and like talk to you, that's why they were like your vet and you owed a whole bunch to them because not all those guys were willing to do this. It's more prevalent and accepted in today's NBA because there's not as many vets in the league at this point. It's very trending young. And the guys who stick around, maybe the ones who are not willing to mentor young kids are more likely to leave the league because teams are like, well, you're old and we don't want you around if you're not going to teach the youngsters. You're going to be selfish like that. So that probably is happening a lot. That's why a guy like Thad Young or Garrett Temple can get an extended long career because they are very much about giving back to the future generations of the NBA coming up underneath them. But Jimmy, come on, man. This is the thing that pisses me off about this particular situation. Jaime Vasquez Jr. has made you your favorite player is you, Jimmy Butler. And he has looked up to you and he's styled his game after you in a bit and you're rejecting him. You don't want to help him. I don't get mad. I'll be like, Jimmy, fuck you, man. You don't want to teach a young guy coming up underneath you. That's not helping the game for the future. And in some ways, that's selfish as fuck. So yeah, I don't get behind that. Sucks to replace your train your replacement. Well, play good enough that you ever can be replaced. Jimmy Butler's supposed to be Jimmy Buckets. He's supposed to be a specific player that's a one-of-one, and he should be the kind of guy that doesn't worry about this because, well, there's only one Jimmy Butler, and when I'm gone, I'm gone. He shouldn't be worried about this. He's training his replacement. Well, dude, you're old. You're going to leave the league at some point. You're going to be replaced anyway. So what does it matter? Have an impact and give back to the game is what I'm saying. There's just some wrestlers in wrestling that will not train younger wrestlers and help them because of this very reason. And it's selfish. In fact, I've lost a lot of respect for Hacksaw Jim Duggan recently because I heard that he hated Alex Wright in WCW. And there were a couple of guys that did not want to help Alex Wright from Germany, the Das Wunderkind. He was trying to learn. He was a very young wrestler at that time. And he got big very young. He was in his very early 20s. He had to fight Paul Roma, formerly of Power and Glory with Hercules. And Paul Roma absolutely refused to help Alex Wright, not sell anything for him. And Alex Wright had some very confusing matches in WCW against guys that didn't like him and refused to put him over and made him look bad even. And Hacksaw was one of them. Hacksaw had a very horrible match with Alex Wright where he wouldn't sell anything for him. And he was absolutely being a dick about passing it down to a younger guy who was the future. And I can't stand that. I lost a lot of respect for Jim Duggan learning about that Alex Wright match. And just like Alex didn't know what he did. He's just like, I'm just here to try and learn. I respect all you guys. Maybe I look a little cocky in my personality, but I'm not behind the scenes. I'm a nice guy, and I just want to learn. Ric Flair took Alex Wright under his wing, and he said, this guy's really good. And he was part of the reason why he got all the push of getting more notoriety as a very young wrestler is because Flair liked him, and he really spoke him up in WCW and gave him chances. Meanwhile, old vets like Paul Roma and Jim Duggan were treating Alex Wright like he was a jabroni and a jobber, and we're not letting him come over or go over them. It's crazy. It's crazy. All right, let's keep going. I'm going to finish up soon. Just a little wrestling aside. Just a little wrestling aside right there. Yeah. Let's see. Mike's saying he's dunking, but he's not really playing hard at all. He was benched in the fourth twice before the suspension. Yeah, and I remember in the game that we played against them where we won, he was benched at the end of that game and just watched us beat his team then too. That was before we beat Indiana, the beginning of December. Yeah, I mean, that was from injury. Yeah, it is what it is. Wayne saying, morning, Raptor Freaks. Don't know why the injury is mounting, but the athletic players might be taking more risks like Ja Morant. Part of life's success is to train your replacement. That's my philosophy. Yeah. Yeah, if you want to have a legacy in what you do, you have to have people that kind of followed you afterwards. And if you can instill your beliefs in the way you did things, that has you living on after you're done. And that's why I don't get that. It's just pure selfishness in some ways. I get it. You're worried about that, the world of capitalism. You worry about training your replacement at your job. If you have a regular job and you have some worry about your job security, you may be worried about training someone who could take your job in real life. I get that. And in some ways, this is the same thing, but it isn't. Because once you're an established NBA player like Jimmy Butler, there's a place for you as long as you can play physically at the NBA level. And that's why I think this is stupid as fuck. I mean, if you're in your own job and you work at the warehouse like Seymour, and there's a guy coming in, you may want to keep your duties and your level of what you're doing. You may not want to train them exactly. And that's up to you in that situation. That's different. I'm just talking about with this kind of stuff. Mike's saying the Butler issues are deeper. Butler wanted help, and Pat Riley wouldn't trade Hero for Dame and feels wronged. So this Dame Lillard thing really did screw up Miami really bad to the point where Jimmy obviously didn't want to play with Tyler. He'd rather play with Lillard. Well, maybe the trade of the Bucks will never happen because of this, because ultimately they understood Jimmy Butler just wanted to play with Damian Lillard. It's so funny, man. Seymour saying these players are divas, nothing new under the sun. There you go. And Carlos saying morning, freaks, and Philip Lex and Philip Freaks. All right, let's do the classic card of the day real quick. Once again, these are not very classic. These are Christmas cards that were given to me by my niece and nephew at Christmas time recently, and they're newer hoops cards, so they should be pretty easy. So first person to write the full name answer on this card will get the Raptor Freak trivia points for today. So tell me who this is. It's kind of easy. Yeah, you can look at it. Can you tell the team? Can you tell the player?
If you can write it in, you'll get it. And of course, this is a player that has switched teams and is not on this team anymore. So this may be easy because of that. There you go. That's an interesting spelling, Mike. It's almost like you wrote curacao, like the alcohol. Yeah, that's right. I'm gonna give it a Mike, even though he didn't spell it exactly right. It's not Denny Avija, and it's Alex Correa. Correa. That's all right. Yeah, let's see. Alex Caruso is the card of the Oklahoma City Thunder, who'd be playing the Boston Celtics today. Let's hope that Caruso and the guys can get that big dub over the green team today. That'd be awesome. Caruso is a card. 100 points for Mike. We'll give it to Mike today, even though he spelled it like it was an alcohol. Alex Caruso. 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 All right, there's Logical Raptors Fanatic is getting on the board for this one. 100 points from Mike on the Alex Caruso card. Love to see it, man. Boom goes the dynamite. Smooth saying, I actually like this trade very much. Which trade? Oh, let me read the trade you put up. Okay, here we go. Smooth saying, Sam Veshy has a very interesting three-way trade involving the Raptors. The Miami get Bruce Brown, Dennis Schroeder, and Gary Payton II in draft picks. The Raptors get Andrew Wiggins, Guy Santos, and the Warriors get Jimmy Butler. Wow. That's a very interesting trade. So we would get Maple Jordan to come home and play next to Maple Mamba. That would be weird to have Andrew Wiggins on our team all of a sudden. Like, how would he step on toes? I've always said that Andrew and RJ are so similar as players in certain ways that, like, would they fit even on Team Canada, let alone on the Raptors? Because that's why part of the reason why I was like, Andrew being left off of the Team Canada roster last year, I was like, well, we have RJ. We don't need Wiggins. And I have the same philosophy on this. As much as I would have loved to have Andrew Wiggins be a Raptor at some point, I feel like that ship has passed in some ways. I don't know. This is tough. This is interesting. I mean, I like that we're only giving up Bruce Brown and we're getting Andrew Wiggins and Guy Santos. If this is a real trade, all right. All right, let's do it right now. I'm totally with it. I'm totally with it, Smooth. Totally with that trade. I actually like it too. Yeah. Mike saying that I was in Sam's chat yesterday and said it was interesting, but I want a second. You were in Sam Vesheni's chat yesterday and said it was interesting, but I want a second. You want a second round pick is what you want instead of Guy Santos, maybe? I don't know. That's interesting. Interesting stuff. All right, let me see if there's anything else I need to wrap up with from my tabs that I did not see yet. Let's go see Fiercey's post of the Zach Edey, Draymond Green. I'll go ahead and watch it live real quick and react to it real quick. All right, let's see where they are. There's Dennis in a Golden State jersey. He's crazy. Okay, so Zach came in. He kind of got the guy off of him. And, okay, he's rebounded. And, okay, Draymond grabbed him around the shoulders and the back. That's totally a punk-ass move by Draymond Green. Nick Booker's right there, the referee in between them. That's totally on Draymond. Like, why would you grab him around the shoulders and the arms like that? That's not a natural basketball kind of thing to do. Let's see it from here. Okay, so he's kind of grabbing him at first, and then he comes around his shoulders and holds him. And Zach's like, get the fuck off of me. He pushes him off. Draymond's talking. Yeah, Draymond, you're a goof, man. You are a goof. There's no reason for you to put your arms around him like you're hugging him from behind. Because that's what it looked like, Draymond. Sure, he may have put his arm around you on the rebound when you're going up, but that's normal stuff. And it looks like Draymond's getting mad. Like, throw him out. He's like pissed off at Nick Booker and Giammitas. Well, you know what? You shouldn't be doing that, man. There he is. He grabs his arms. He's about to come up, and he's holding him. Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to swing on Big Zach, Draymond. You may need to think about your life choices real quick, my guy. Yeah, Giammitas. What does he say? Giammitas say, okay, so basically they gave him a flagrant for unnecessary contact, wrapping his arm around him. They gave him 2 free throws for a foul, and then they gave the ball to Memphis also to punish Draymond.
Yeah, and they didn't even like give him a technical where he was one step closer to getting thrown out. That's annoying too. That in some ways they did the call right, but in some ways they probably should have given it a technical also, just because of his reputation. Just because, like, dude, you can't be doing this, and you're obviously not learning anything about being physical in the NBA and what should be not allowed. Obviously, because man, seriously, if Zach's coming up strong and he's holding him down like on his shoulders like that, he could have hurt him. He could have hurt him, even though Zach's way bigger than him. So yeah, that's annoying, man. Carlos saying, can Schroeder be traded right away? Why you want to put that family through this, Carlo? Oh my gosh, poor Ellen and the kids. It's just like, man, she put a video out this week showing off their Brooklyn apartment. And it's always like her videos are like, I want to give you the home tour of where we've been staying here in Toronto, but we're leaving because we got traded to Brooklyn. And now it's a similar thing. She's like showing her Brooklyn condo and showing off everything about it. It's like, alas, we're going to San Francisco. Why would you want to do that to Dennis and his poor kids? Have them move so much, like get traded 4 times in the last year. Come on, Carlo. That's crazy. That's crazy. Mike's saying we are taking back more money from Wiggins over time. A second plus Gee is needed, in my opinion. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I want to tie up money in Wiggins. Once again, I don't covet Wiggins as much as a lot of Canadian basketball fans do. I do not. I coveted Wiggins maybe 10 years ago or like 5 years ago, but not at this point. He's really a lot older than he was, and he's past his prime in certain ways. And I don't know. It's silly. It's a silly idea to me to have Andrew Wiggins on the Raptors at this point. Like, it just doesn't make sense. As much as it'd be nice for him to come home and play for the Raptors as a dream, that would be the nicest part about it. But otherwise, it doesn't totally make basketball sense to me. It really, really doesn't. Like, in some ways, it's just like Jimmy Butler. He's not on the timeline of what we're doing in Toronto, so it doesn't make any sense. Make it make sense to me. And plus, like I said, I feel like he's kind of not necessary because of RJ. RJ, in certain ways, is the player build that does certain things like what Andrew would do for us. And I just don't see the necessariness of doing this other than, moving Bruce Brown and getting a good asset for him, I guess. I mean, the second round pick and Santos are more attractive to me in this deal than taking a big contract like Andrew Wiggins and having an aged player like him on the team. Does that make sense? I don't know. All right, let me see. What else do we have? We have no birthdays today. That was fun to watch that little clip. Draymond is such a punk. Totally a punk. Y'all, if you have a fantasy team, y'all take care of your team. And hopefully you got a pretty good record, and I'll see you in the playoffs. Yeah. Yeah. All right, y'all. Today we're talking about injuries on the special report. I hope I enlightened y'all a little bit more on the subject. I think the easiest way the NBA can fix injury problems in the NBA is to extend the season another month and spread out the games more so there's way, way less back-to-backs. If you guys could have no back-to-backs, that would be ideal, because I really do feel like that, with the combination of the higher pace and speed of the game, along with a lot more running than ever in the history of the NBA, players run more on the court than ever, is what is adding to more injuries at this point. And if you want to lessen it, the players need more time to recoup from fatigue and be keeping their bodies in good running order. And that's why I say extend the season for 1 month and spread them out more so that the back-to-backs just don't happen. Very, very few. Very, very few. If we can get on that rhythm of day on, day off, day on, day off, day on, day off, day on, day off for a long time, that's good for the biorhythm of an athlete, because they can get used to it. With the haphazardness of 3 games in 4 nights, then 4 days off, then a game here, and then a back-to-back, that is not easy for the human body to get a biorhythm in sync with the schedule of the physicality of what you're trying to do over and over again. If there was some sort of pattern to it where guys could literally get their biorhythm in sync with it, you would see way better results with injuries in the NBA, is what I say right there. Boom goes the dynamite. There you go. Wayne saying Toronto Raptors is not Team Canada. That's right. Andrew Wiggins does not need to come play for us just because he's Canadian. In some ways, it's an interesting idea. Maybe Sam Vecenie is trying to help us get more Canadians, and I appreciate that in some ways. But also in some ways, it just doesn't make sense to me to have Wiggins on the Raptors right now. I'll say that over and over again. It did make sense to me last year. It won't make sense to me this year. He's a year older in some ways. I said the same thing last year when people talked about getting Wiggins in Toronto. I said, I don't want him on our team right now. because in some ways, he has played better and shown that he is able to still play. But in some ways also, I understand his age bracket and where he's at. And I don't want to like start building an offense around him when he's going to be probably only going to be in the Raptors jersey if he comes here for like 2 years and that's it. He's gone. Something like that. Does that make sense? Mike's saying Golden State did the Nets trade early so they can maybe trade him at the trade deadline. Yeah. I don't know. Poor Dennis. Poor Schroeder family. As we were saying, Wiggins is a big wing. That's the way I look at RJ also, is a big wing. Yeah. I mean, I feel like in some ways there's a lot of similarities, and in some ways there's a certain position and time that you're going to build in the team. Like, what do? We bring in Andrew Wiggins, and we don't get to play Jacoby Walter anymore. Is it something like that? Or does Grady lose minutes because Andrew's all around all of a sudden? Why would we invest time in Andrew Wiggins at this point in our rebuild when we are much more important to invest time in Jamal Shed, Jacoby Walter, Grady Dick, Jonathan Mobo instead of Andrew Wiggins? And that's what I'm saying right there. That's what it is right there. All right, y'all. Thanks for watching me today. Tomorrow we'll have a preview of the Milwaukee Bucks versus the Raptors at Scotiabank Arena on Indigenous Heritage Night. And that'll be awesome. I'll have all the latest lineup news and the referee report for you first thing in the morning, 9:30 a.m. Monday morning. I'll see y'all then. I appreciate everybody on the Raptor Freak channel. Thank you, Raptor Freaks. Get out there, Raptorize your day. Have a great Sunday. And hopefully things are just real nice and smooth for you in good ways. That's right, Cass. Peace out. All the best to you guys. Let's go, Raptors. And let's win some more games in 2025. ASAP, Rocky. As soon as we can, my guys. Let's go.